Boo!
Believe me, Luke, it's the best.
Yeah, you have to. He said it, so it's like, what can you do?
All right. You are about to listen to yet another live stream of your scary stories. I'm Jeff Townsend, and Luke is joining me as usual, the new and improved Luke with a haircut.
Yeah, haircut and I shaved.
A week ago, but it's
a week ago. Yeah. Busy with the convention. I think I was the only person that went to it, didn't get sick, but I feel pretty good.
It's crazy because I was incredibly sick traveling to Texas for work. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it home. People were like, why'd you travel with COVID? I didn't know I had COVID.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, after the convention, a lot of people in, Facebook groups that went to there, they were talking about how they all got COVID, and I was like, oh, man, I hope I don't get sick. Then I haven't.
I was asked how is Texas that I get propane? I never get propane. I need to. I got to go back next week, so I'll let you know if I can find some
good can of propane to bring home.
Anyways, I'm glad your cosplay convention went well. I know you're excited about that all year. You're at it. You got that out of the way now. Vacation's over, and it's time for some scary stories tonight. I have 2. You have 3. I have one story that's, I don't want to say a normal story because it's pretty messed up. We'll go into some details on that. Then I also have a video story. I need to make sure I can actually have that file on here. Let me look.
I don't think you could say any of our stories are ever normal. We always say this was a little different than normal, but they're all weird. The greatness of the show is that, we come up with stuff that every time is a little bit different and a little bit crazier because there's always some new scary story.
My studio has become a scary story for me every week. So you're going to kick things off. Let me start getting some music queued up.
The name of this story is Unknown Encounter. This is a story that occurred back in 2018 when me and my family lived in Fort Orchard, Washington State. I've always been a skeptic of the paranormal, but this story kind of changed my stance on it. To understand the story, you must visualize the layout of our house. Our house was on a small clearing right on the edge of Banner National Forest. We had a wraparound balcony with windows that fed into the kitchen, living room, and master bedroom. If you looked out any of those windows, you were looking directly onto the balcony. There's also a set of stairs that led onto the balcony from the lower patio near the basement. Lastly, our living room had a set of glass French doors in between the 2 windows. At the time, we only had one thin curtain covering the glass. It was the first 2 weeks staying there when everything went down. Everyone went to bed around 10 or 11. Around 2 in the morning, my mom had woken up to the sound of scratching and footsteps on the balcony right outside of the window. She peeled back the curtains on the window and saw nothing, but kept hearing scampering sounds that got progressively faster and more aggressive. She then woke up my dad, and they both went into the living room to get a better view from the doors. My mom, afraid of what was out there, got down on her hands and knees and slowly peered through the curtain, only to be confronted with 2 sets of eyes. They didn't move, even when she screamed and jumped back. After about 5 minutes, they heard them calmly walk around the balcony and down the stairs. They convinced themselves it was just deer or something, since we did live on the national forest. When my mom told me about this the next morning, I remembered we had cameras that the previous owners had left. So I decided to take a look. What I saw was arguably one of the strangest things I have ever seen. 2 dogs, I think they were pit bulls, had come up onto the balcony. However, the way they moved was so unsettling, it's almost as if they didn't know how to walk on 4 legs, like they were used to being bipedal. They both, at the same time, stared into the glass, completely unfazed by all the noise my parents had just made. They remained there, even after my parents had went back to bed, just fixed on looking into the living room. Then, I kid you not, at the exact same time, they both turned their heads directly towards the camera in the corner, almost as if they knew someone would be watching it. It ran to the camera in complete sync with one another. They literally mimicked each other's movements so well, it was like a copy and paste of a video of the same dog running. I've never ever seen dogs act like that before. Even their eyes were eerie to look at, since they were staring right into the camera lens the entire time. Then they simply walked down the stairs and into the woods. As far as I knew, both our neighbors didn't have pit bulls. I was left so creeped out by the footage. They seriously acted like animals in disguise. That doesn't make any sense. I kick myself every day for not taking that footage with me when we moved. I'm even unsettled writing the story now. Anyway, thanks for reading.
I think I can speak for both of us when I say you're welcome.
You're welcome, yeah.
That's pretty creepy. I'm not gonna lie. I think the eyes part is the creepy part.
What I liked about this was it kind of felt almost like a Skinwalker story, right? Because they mentioned that it felt like
Yeah.
the animals didn't walk like they always run all fours. They kind
Right.
of, he mentioned that at first they almost kind of stumbled up. And then the idea of them both turning and looking up at the camera in unison, that is pretty creepy.
Yeah, it is rather disturbingly creepy.
I have a couple dogs now. And I have another dog. Since the last time we spoke, I have another one. They don't move in unison. When they're moving together, they're kind of like, loping along, but they're not
Yeah,
together.
it's not perfectly, yeah.
He described this as like almost like a copy and paste video of the two of them running together, which makes it seem otherworldly.
Yeah.
And he mentioned he was in Washington State now, just far north for a skinwalker. But there are other things out there that are similar stories that I've read elsewhere.
They said it was moving like by, what'd you say?
He said that it didn't look like it was used to walking all fours, like it had used to be bipedal. Like it used to walk on two legs, but
Yeah, kind of, sorry to cut you off. It reminded me of the like Nightcrawler sort of thing. How you always see them, or like, I'm thinking of the right thing, right? Where they're awkward with the legs.
Yeah, the crawler.
Yeah,
we talked about.
But it was like that, but it was like on 4 now. Okay.
So it wasn't moving properly, and that to me is a strange thing. I want to know more about this. I haven't been able to find out anything else in the area yet. I tried to look up more, but I hadn't found out more in the area. But it sounds like a similar creature to the crawler or a skinwalker, but different breed. Like this thing is not necessarily violent. And someone mentioned that it actually kind of reminds them of a different type of spirit that is more of a curious spirit, not an evil entity. Like it was just there to observe someone new to the area. And so that's also kind of creepy, and it's all right. But that could be what it was. Someone mentioned that it was likely a spirit of the forest coming to check in on new tenants on the edge of this, national park.
It's definitely creepy regardless. It didn't seem like it was like evil or something. I guess
Right.
You don't know, but you're like, it just seemed like a curious spirit.
And that's what it comes across as. Especially the fact that it kind of just stared at the camera like it was wondering what that was about and stuff like that.
You put yourself in the shoes of this person. What do you think you would do?
Myself, well, I would make sure I kept the cameras going all the time. But they didn't mention ever seeing it again until they had moved, because they had moved away without having encountered this thing. So it seems like whatever it was left them alone. So for me, it would have come down to like keep observing and trying to find out more. But they never saw it again, which makes it even more kind of spooky in that sense. Like they never saw these two dogs again. They just disappeared.
Calling them dogs seems weird to me. Doesn't sound too... I guess it kind of does, but there's just, like you said, the glaring differences of how they're moving. Unless it's some ghost dog, or something. I don't... What do we go to the chat here? I would move away, somebody said.
They did eventually move.
They did say they eventually moved, and they... Man, it's just like something so crazy happened. You'd like think you'd really want to keep that footage.
Yeah. I could see, though, there's a lot of times when there's something you want to keep when you're moving that you just end up forgetting.
Yeah.
So, like, things get forgotten. They get left behind. I can see that happening. Then just, like an SD card, that will go missing at the drop of a hat. I've lost probably 50
50 SD card. Yeah. Especially when we're like micro. Remember those days?
I have a bunch of micro SD cards that I have bought for different projects, and a lot of them I have lost.
You lost them all. You're just you lack responsibility for an SD card. No, they are small. I don't know. It just seems like to me it'd be something I'd be like, man, this is so crazy. I would have shared it in some platform where I could probably go back and get it. Wait, how long ago did they say this was?
2018, so
Yeah.
7 years ago. What was it?
Anybody else would be putting that on Facebook and stuff, like,
Yeah.
this is what I saw. It was crazy. They said they're trying to get they say they had sent it out to anybody else trying to get answers or not.
No, they were just talking about it. They thought they wanted to share their story finally after some time.
I think if that happened to me, I would share out like you did with the Fox thing that I don't know if those control cameras ever got set up, but you went to that group and you're like, hey, what does this sound like to you? I think that's what I would have done.
I'm guessing for them it was less imperative. Like maybe they didn't feel super threatened. They were just more inquisitive. Like I found it reading it. So I think maybe in the heat of the moment, they were more like, oh, you know what? Maybe that wasn't something that meant us danger. Like there are times when you encounter something and it doesn't feel dangerous, and maybe you kind of just like blow it off, and maybe that's what they did. But then they're like later on, maybe thinking, maybe I should probably tell people about this and see what they think.
What do you think about this though? This comment ad. There was no the MySpace wasn't a thing then, man.
It still exists.
Yeah, but it wasn't like it was done like, I don't know, 2011 or 10. It kind of just vanished off the face of the earth.
They're using Friendster.
That was a cool story. It's a good story to start off with because it kind of sets the scene well for other scary stories. Because like didn't happen to you, so it's kind of hard to like fully say like I would have done this or that or this was like it's hard to say. So I do think mine you're going to enjoy.
I'm looking forward to it.
Actually, I guess I could start queuing up the music. Yeah, the name of this story, again, is why I chose it. It was very intriguing to me. It kind of like, because we came off of the Man in the Cloak in the Graveyard story, and I was like, man, this story is amazing. This is the name of it, It's called The Man in the Yellow Raincoat. Here we go. So this is a story that happened to my mom's friend in Korea about 10 years ago. Every time I hear this story, I still get chills. My mom's friend lived in an apartment complex. She was a stay-at-home mother with a young daughter, and her husband worked during the days. One day, she was coming home from running errands with her daughter and got onto the elevator in her building. When she got on, she noticed that there was a man wearing a cap and a yellow raincoat, and he kept his head low so that she couldn't really see his face. She immediately felt really uneasy because of this, and she made her daughter stand to her side, furthest side away from this man. What made her feel even more uncomfortable was that when she pressed a button on her floor, there was no other number lit up already. And on top of that, she noticed that he was carrying something wrapped inside a newspaper close to his side. Things started to click in my mom's friend's head, and she started to panic and decided to take out her cell phone and pretend she was calling home to her husband, who was obviously really not home and was at work. She started saying things like, "Oh, I'm on the elevator, about to get off. Can you get the door for me, please?" And making it seem like her husband was waiting at home for her. When the elevator did reach her floor, I think she lived on something like the 12th floor, she quickly got off the elevator and grabbed her daughter and started to walk as fast as she could to her apartment. She noticed that the man also got off on that floor and was slowly following her from down the hallway at a distance. When my mom's friend got to her door, she started to bang on it and shout, "Hey," husband's name, "I'm home. Please open the door." It kind of pretended like, and he was coming to answer the door, like she was talking back with somebody. Upon seeing this, the man in the yellow coat started to walk away back towards the elevator. When he seemed to be far enough away, my mom's friend quickly picked up her daughter and slid open her door's passcode thingy. This is how people get in and out of apartments in Korea. And started to frantically punch in her key code. But the problem was the buttons would make sounds that were loud. So the man knew that no one was going to answer the door for her, and he turned around and started to run back towards them. My mom's friend at this point was frantically screaming and trying to push the buttons as quickly as she could. When she finally got her door open, the first thing she did was throw her daughter in through the door. When she got herself in, she saw that the man was inches away. She managed to shut the door and lock it before he could wedge his hand or weapon into the door. Afterwards, looking through the door's peephole, she saw the man was walking away back towards the elevator. Fast forward to several months later. My mom's friend was watching the news, and there was coverage on the capture of a serial killer named Yoo Young-chul, who used to kill a lot of different sex workers and other women in the area. She told my mom that she could never forget the dread she felt when she saw the too familiar picture of him in a yellow raincoat and the exact same hat he was wearing in the elevator at that time. He was also wearing it when he was apprehended. So that is the end of the story, but they did go ahead and attach the Wikipedia page of this guy to the story. So let me see if I can share my screen. This guy is legitimate, very creepy. Yeah, so if you look through the coverage here, this guy is a legitimate South Korean serial killer. Sex offender, obviously, and cannibal. He admitted to the murders of multiple people, mostly sex workers and wealthy old couples. They convicted him of 20 murders and mutilated at least 11 of his victims. Admitted he ate their livers to some of them. He committed crimes between actually, it was about, looks like less than a year if you look at this article, September 2023 to July 2024. Apprehended in July. His motives in front of the TV camera, what did he say? Women shouldn't be, wow, this slur word there. And the rich should know what they've done. Apparently this guy had been married. He had a son, previously convicted 14 times of several different charges, and served 7 years in prison prior to his string of murders here. We can look at some of these details as we go in here, but he did confess to killing 19 of them, apparently. He admitted to additional murder, a male street vendor. He eventually confessed to killing 28 people. This is several days after his arrest. He continued to confess more and more as he went along here. I don't really know more details I can go into without being too gruesome, but the motives here, this section, I thought this was interesting. Based on the content that was in his apartment, searched after his arrest, there was some speculation that he patterned his killings after several movies, including Public Enemy, Very Bad Things, A Normal Life. He later confessed to being inspired by another serial killer, I haven't heard of this person, who had murdered 9 wealthy people. Okay, so psychologists assessed this guy, concluded that he was not mentally ill, but exhibited usual signs associated with antisocial disorder, whereby a person creates their own belief system based on distrust of moral and social norms. He's still detained in a detention center. Apparently, this was sparked great debate on capital punishment. Let's go to the chat real quick. What a psychopath! These guys are a freak, like the Ripper. Yeah, I think the terrifying part is we always hear about these serial killers, but this person literally came face to face with this person. Can you imagine what would be running through your mind afterwards, knowing what could have happened potentially?
Yeah, that's something else. Hadn't heard of that. I've heard of other serial killer encounters before, like people that later found out that they were within striking distance of a serial killer, and their thought process on this was something else though. Him actually chasing after her and knowing 100% that had she not gotten in as quick as she did, that he would have killed them both, probably.
Could you feel the tension as I was reading this story?
That's a rough one.
Like putting in the passcodes into the door.
Yeah, and I've seen them have those in videos of showing people getting into apartments in Korea, and I think even Japan might have that as well. So yeah, I know what they're talking about when she mentioned that. Yeah, that's nuts. That's a terrifying story. Terrible person, obviously, and it reminds me of a TV series I watched recently called Blackbird. Have you seen it?
No.
It's a true story about a serial killer and this guy who was put in jail for drugs, and he was given an option to try to spy on the serial killer, to confess to murders so that they could put him away forever. as opposed to being put away for just like an assault charge that they had him on. It's terrifying the way when he gets him to talk about what he did to people. You also kind of see what he did to people because they dramatize it,
Yeah.
And I was like reading, when you brought up that Wikipedia page and reading it as it was going along, it was like, oh, this reminds me of that guy in Blackbird. Horrible person. Both these people, horrible people, did the worst imaginable things on the planet. That is one of the scariest stories ever that you just read that I think we've heard on here because of the fact this person encountered a monster. This reminds me also of your with the serial killer calling into Howard Stern radio show. When you encounter like pure evil in this form, it leaves a mark on you,
Yeah.
no matter what. So I find that to be just absolutely terrifying. And this is a story that I want to ruminate on for days going forward. And I'm probably going to look it up all those people because I get this thing where like, I can't get something out of my head. Like when I start hearing about it, and this is one of those things I know I'm not going to get out of my head. I want to be, looking up what this person, how they caught him and stuff like that, because that was terrifying.
Makes me wonder what was in that newspaper he had rolled up or folded up.
Probably a knife.
Yeah.
In my guess, would probably be a knife, something that he could force his way in with.
I immediately understood the creepy factor. If you were to get on an elevator with a suspicious looking person and there was no other button pushed.
Yeah.
I thought that was like, so I thought this lady had a great attention to detail in the moment that saved their lives. That was like the first step, right?
Yeah.
You get on, you're like, what the heck? There's no bike. Where's this person going? There's no button pressed. And you just start to observe things. Then to think like to call her husband or pretend, to call her husband.
Yeah.
Then to do the same thing as she's at the door.
And it's very smart. But it reminds me of something I heard described about being scared. When you're scared, your heart beats faster, so blood pumps through your body. It's like rocket fuel to your brain, right?
Yeah.
You can run faster, fight harder, anything, it's like a superpower, being afraid, if you use it right. Something about him was off as soon as she stepped on board that kicked in all of her fear. That's the only thing that saved her. It's interesting that, people in duress, different forms of duress, become superhuman. The speed at which she, punched in those numbers, remembered them perfectly, that, she might have fumbled once or twice in a normal situation where she isn't paying attention.
Yeah.
That would have cost her life.
Sometimes when you have a kid, you're pretty occupied too, so I give her credit for seeing these things. Do you think he started running back? You think that really pissed him off?
I think so. I think he was probably thinking...
This guy's a psycho, right? I mean...
Yeah. He probably assumed at first he had an easy mark. And then after he was, thinking, well, I don't know that I could take on an adult woman and an adult man at the same time. And then when he realized that wasn't the case, he was definitely filled with a sense of anger and embarrassment, which would have made him more dangerous and possibly do worse things. Because people who are embarrassed, people who are small and monstrous, will do horrible things. And it's one of those things where it's like a monster like that isn't a powerful person. They're a small, evil goblin who will do things that are horrible.
I'm reading up on it still to the side over here. It says he was sentenced to death, but they haven't executed anybody since 1997.
I could see that happening. A lot of people are on death row for like 30, 40 years. So even here, where, our country is much more loose with using the death penalty. So I can definitely see that being that way in another country.
Real quick, we do have some timeline on the events of this guy. 1998, he had a theft charge. 3 years later, he had a more serious theft charge that landed him 10 years in prison. Got out within 2 years. Looks like he got married. That same year, he got sentenced for theft to 8 months in prison. After getting out, his son was born within a year after that. 1998, he had theft, forging, identity theft, sentenced to 2 years in prison. Sexual assault in the year 2000, sentenced to 3 years and 6 months in prison. When that happened, his wife divorced him. In 3 years, he gets out of prison. And then, wow, within 13 days of getting out of prison, after that longer sentence and after his divorce, that's when the killing started. He's still currently in prison, it looks like. Date of execution yet to be determined. This guy's an absolute monster. Cannibal, crazy. Lucky to be alive, though. This is a scary story. I mean, I don't know how else to word it. Like, when I read it, I was like, this is so freaky. Then I clicked on the page that was in the link, and the person later modified it and said, if you want to know more about this, look this here.
I mean,
and as I read it again, cold chills all over again, dude. I was just like, this is freaking terrifying.
We've said it a few times that some of the worst monsters are just human beings, right?
It's not like, I don't know what this person was going to do to me. They were like really suspicious. You probably know what he was going to do to you.
There are some people you can look at where you're just like, I know I need to keep an eye on this person because I can't let them follow me. I can't let them get me alone.
Incredible story, though. I'm glad that person shared that.
Yeah.
Flip it back over to you for your second story of the night. Let me start queuing up the music.
My possible Wendigo sighting. Today I was discussing this extremely weird and terrifying experience my friend and I had when we gave someone a ride home. So I decided to write about it now. To give more context of what happened and why I stated possible sighting. I live on the western slope of Colorado, and I'm an avid marijuana user, especially when I'm up late with a friend and we're working on Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. So it's really difficult for me to say it'd be real because I was definitely under the influence. The strange thing about it, my friend and I felt and saw the same thing. It was late spring, and we were working on a campaign late in the evening, and we got the munchies. My friend only lives 4 blocks away from a gas station, and it could be accessed from side streets. Being under the influence, I did not want to take a main street and go far at all. It wasn't responsible of me, not using it to excuse myself, but I know that we needed to eat. As we were leaving the conveniently placed store, my friend and I were stopped by a woman that he knew growing up. She was close friends with his mother. She was extremely intoxicated and all alone. So my friend offered her a ride home to make sure she got back safe. Here's where things started to get really weird. Without conversing with each other, my friend and I both felt like she was not safe to walk. I played this off as being a woman in her 60s or early 70s, intoxicated and completely alone. She claimed it was only a block away, but it was actually a few miles outside of town where she lived. It was easily taking her over an hour or so for her to get home. Being in a small town, we have no Uber, Lyft, or taxis, so we both felt off about her walking on her own, so we decided that we would take her. When we got down the road from her place, she asked us to drop her off away from her place so that her boyfriend didn't see our headlights. At this point, I didn't want to go into anything further. There were so many red flags about the situation, I knew it was best just to drop her off, as requested, and go back to my friend's house. As I reversed down this single-lane dirt road, I told my friend that I'm going to pull just over before we get back to town, because I really needed to use the bathroom. And then we both agreed that she was in a very bad situation. Once I turned around this bend in the road, headlights shined into a small group of trees and bushes. I noticed this extremely large, elk-like creature lowering itself from being exposed in the headlights. I could make out the face, but it wasn't normal like an elk. The large antlers that came off like dead branches. The front legs were inverted, skinny, and extremely long. I could tell because his hind legs and lower half were lower than the upper body. Could have been crouching or sitting, though. Upper torso was huge, and I thought I saw stripes on its fur. Friend said it looked like its rib cage was actually exposed. The eyes reflected the high beams exposed on it, and at first I assumed it was an elk because they were everywhere in the area. But it was easily over 15 feet tall and thin. I didn't immediately react to it and kept driving, but I did see it. The conversation between my friend and I stopped as if we had both saw it and tried to process it. After I pulled off to use the restroom slightly a mile away, couldn't help but looking down the road to make sure the creature wasn't coming after us. It was a feeling I never experienced before. And when I turned around to get back in the car, I couldn't help but notice my friend staring down the road as well, doing the exact same thing I was doing. I asked if he saw something as well. He said what he saw was something that looked like the forest spirit in the Studio Ghibli movie Princess Mononoke, but from hell. At this point, my fear was validated, and I jumped into the car and sped off. The feeling we both had was both more of a sense of dread, almost like we were being hunted, or if we were to investigate it at this time, our lives would have been in danger. I never in my life felt this type of fear before. It's a new experience that I never thought I could feel. I'm glad she made it safe, and we were in the right place at the right time to give her help that she needed. After the situation, I was informed about her life of substance use and struggles that actually got worse over the years. Ever since that night, me and my friend have dealt with lots of things. We've had deaths in the family and things like that. I struggle to claim there was any association with what we saw that night, but it's very strange how our lives increasingly got worse since. I was told that there was a chance that it was an evil spirit that attached to us that made things worse, but I don't know.
Wow. Or it was a Wendigo. I guess some not dear comments flying in the chat.
Yeah.
A very popular subject on this show, I guess.
It has a lot of similarities to a lot of the not deer stories, but also a lot of people say that not deer is also a Wendigo, so
I could see it for sure.
Well, a lot of people say that, like, the Wendigo, we discussed this, I think, during the last,
the video, yeah.
That it has a couple different forms. One is the very skinny man,
which is what we saw in the video.
Yeah, and the other is the elk-like, which with the bone face. And he even mentioned in this that his friend said it looked like it was its ribs sticking through. He thought it was stripes.
Which reminded me exactly of the video we watched. That person clearly was very skinny.
Yeah.
Bones, ribs showing. And the way they moved was strange.
Yeah, to put it lightly, that was strange. Another very strange encounter with a creature. They both saw, didn't really talk about it at first, but then they both realized they had seen it. The description of it is like the Princess Mononoke forest spirit, but from hell.
I didn't know what the hell he was talking about there. I just went along with it.
It's an anime. There's a forest spirit creature that looks like kind of like a mix of elk human face. It's really weird looking. But anyway, they mentioned that it felt like that, but from hell, and I can kind of get that idea in my head of like what this creature looks like. That was one that I thought, that's pretty scary.
One thing they couldn't get out of their head is they had to use the bathroom.
They had to use the bathroom. And that actually kind of, it's one of those things that's like, makes you kind of believe the story, right? I've never been stoned, but I've been drunk, really drunk, and I've been like, yeah, I got to use the bathroom no matter what. And you know, the fact that they drove a mile down the road and he stopped over to take a leak, at that point it's like, but he's still like looking over his shoulder like,
I might drive 5 miles down the road though.
Yeah, definitely. And then like, they're like, keep on looking over his shoulder, and then he knows his friend is doing the same thing. And
like, can you imagine being the friend like waiting while it's happening? Yeah,
it'd be like,
come on.
Yeah, if you saw that and you're like looking over his shoulder, it's like, God damn, man, can you wrap this up?
Exactly. Especially if you really only went 1 mile. I feel like that's not safe enough from this. People in the chat are asking a curse. It's a curse.
There are people who say that Wendigos and skinwalkers can put a curse on you if you see them.
You put a curse on his bladder?
A curse of just horrible things to happen to you from then on.
Then he said, yeah, that things did happen.
Yeah, they said they had deaths in the family and bad things happened to them in personal life. Yeah, I can see that it's a possibility. And like I said, I read about it in multiple stories of these things having lasting effects. because they are, if the stories are true, a spirit that has been summoned to punish people. It would make sense that they would, being around it would be a curse to you. And they mentioned that, it was not too far from where they dropped off that lady. And she was also having problems.
Let's talk about that. That was a suspicious situation, was it not?
Yeah, about that, I actually wanted to know more. I couldn't find out any more. It's like, it was weird that, like, she wanted them to drop her off a ways from her house, turn off the lights so that her husband or boyfriend wouldn't notice the car dropping them off. Yeah, there's a lot to that was strange, right? And they even mentioned there was a lot of red flags. I think that was, like, the only red flag that I noticed, besides the fact that she was drunk at that, like, corner store.
Yeah.
I feel like there's more to the story that he didn't include.
Yeah.
Probably from embarrassment or something like that. I can imagine.
Privacy, yeah.
I imagine there's probably a little bit more that wasn't included. I don't know if that was part of the Wendigo curse or so much that you're dealing with a drunk elderly lady who was kind of made a lot of bad decisions in her life. But yeah, that was a strange part of the story, and a strange part that he dwelt just enough on, but not enough at the same time.
You think it was the boyfriend was the Wendigo?
I did till now.
So this happened after she got dropped off, right?
It was after they dropped her off and they turned around back and started going back the way it came. And he described it like his lights went over, like they were maybe like turning a bend, and it went over some things. Like the fact that it was like trying to get out of the lights. It's kind of interesting, like described like an animalistic thing, but being 15 feet tall, that's a different story.
15 feet. Just think about that. 15 feet tall. I guess wouldn't really know. It would look. Point being, it was gigantic.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been around people who have been really stoned. They don't really lose all their faculties, right? So, like, I don't believe that him being under the influence of marijuana would make it so he would envision something like this out of nowhere. So he listed as it maybe possibly because of that, but I don't believe that. It was a very scary story to me, and I thought, I like those types of stories.
Yeah.
Not necessarily as terrifying as a real-life serial killer.
The man in the yellow raincoat.
Yeah. Definitely scary in its own right.
Yeah, no, it was a really good story. I enjoyed that one a lot. I think that's something you'll never forget the rest of your life that happened to you.
Yeah.
You'll always like the raincoat story. Like, what the person was. You always wonder what the hell that was, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And you better hope you never find out, right? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like the tiny person that I saw running alongside the truck one night.
Yeah.
I think I told that story.
Yeah, you did. When you guys were in the back of the truck, how you'd move something. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was dark. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, and I can't explain it.
That's a perfect segue into what I have, because we're going to go to a clip of Paranormal Caught on Camera, one of my favorite shows.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, they allow their content to be shared, so that's nice of them.
It makes it be more favorite.
Well, yeah, right? I mean, the gift that keeps on giving. But yeah, this is one that I found absolutely terrifying. It's a haunting experience a guy had when he was home. I think he said his wife was at work or something. I'm curious what everybody thinks, so I don't want to waste any more time. Let me pull it up.
Flickering inside the refrigerator, and I thought that was strange. I had never seen it before. But what really creeped me out was the light in the bathroom started flickering, and I had water running. So I kind of snuck around the corner, and the water was on. As I started to walk away from the bathroom after cutting the water off, I kind of heard something behind me, and that was actually this door here that closed. That's when I really, truly got freaked out.
Cody walks outside and calls his girlfriend to tell her what's been going on. She tells him to stay out of the house.
I said, well, look, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to keep filming because I don't know what to expect.
And when he does, he finds the kitchen in total disarray.
All the chairs were on the floor, knocked over. All the cabinets were open.
Nope.
I said, nope, I'm going back outside. I don't know what this is. I got scared.
After 2 hours, Cody finally musters up the courage to go back inside the house.
I went through every single room looking for somebody, thinking maybe somebody had gotten in and they were just trying to scare me. I checked every room, under every bed.
He doesn't find anyone.
The fourth or fifth time I had watched the video, I noticed something in the corner of the room, which is actually my daughter's room. So I screenshotted it and I just zoomed in on it. My heart just dropped. I could feel my face, all the blood in my face ran. I mean, it scared me. It just looked like somebody watching me. I didn't sleep that night.
If I captured something like that, I would not be going back in my home. I mean, at all, without a team of investigators and possibly a priest for exorcism purposes.
This is such a classic horror movie moment.
Nope.
As humans, we assume to look around at our eye level and see what's going on. So we are missing the thing that's right above us. And in this case, that's the scariest part.
I often talk about spirits in the home being benevolent, being helpful, not to panic. But when I see something like this, when I see that upside down head peering into the main room, I got to admit, a part of me does start to panic.
Just leave it on the screen.
It's a lot to unpack.
Did you see it before they zoomed in?
You know, I did see like a circle over there. Like something a shape that didn't look normal, but like only just barely. And then when I started to zoom in, I was like, "Oh my!"
Truly terrifying. We have it up on the screen still, and I'm just looking. So people are talking about the forehead size. Kind of looks like a Michael Myers mask.
It kind of does.
But the nose, I don't really. The person's definitely. The creepy part is the person's like upside down, like I don't.
Upside down and 7 feet in the air. So
and peeking at you.
So that's something else. That's pretty terrifying. I always think that I like to try to observe things, and so like as you're going through this video and stuff like that, you see things like maybe that can be done or that can be done or whatever. That doesn't make any sense to me in terms of this video. This is like the craziest part of it, that upside down face looking.
So I mean, it's already pretty creepy when the water is on in a room.
Yeah.
You go in there, you're like, what the heck? We're replaying it. You go in there, you're like, what the heck? The water's on. As you can see there in the sink.
Yeah.
I hope he shut it off, by the way.
Yeah.
As he's walking away, though, he hears a sound as he's walking away behind him, as he's talking about right now. And when he turns around, look at that. So let's freeze it right there. I don't know if that was a mirror or something. You can see above the sink. You don't see anything.
Yeah.
The door's definitely closing.
Yeah.
I don't see anything, a shadow under the door. I mean, I see something in the middle there, but I don't see something. The way this light is shining through the bottom of the door, I'm thinking, if somebody was actually standing on the floor, right, you think you would see that.
Yeah, you would. Yeah. So whatever it was is not standing in front of that door at all.
Yeah. It's definitely closing as he walks away. I mean, there's no...
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, so he leaves the house, as I would, right?
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Then he decides to go back in after talking to his, I think they say wife or girlfriend on the phone.
Yeah. And
he goes back into the room, and the kitchen chairs have been knocked over, which I don't know how long he was. How long did it say he was outside for? I don't remember.
Not very long, but his cabinets are also open.
Yep, cabinets are open now. Kitchen's in disarray, as they quote. It looks like even the cabinets above the refrigerator are open.
Yeah, it looks like they're in that.
It's not easy to open. Looks like there's something sitting in front of it, too.
Yeah.
Creepy. Then he, of course, here. Gosh.
You kind of get like a little bit of it right there.
Yeah, he's starting to show the kitchen right now, and you could see that something is. See if we get a view. Is that in view before? It's the whole time when he comes back in, isn't it? You
I
can see it
think
right
so.
up there still,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. You can see something up there at that point.
Gosh. Does it move?
It's really hard to tell with like phone cameras unless you have the base file and able to transfer frame by frame, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if it looks like it moves up the wall, up higher or not. It's right there.
Kind of seems like it's just always up there in that corner.
Yeah, he's moving too, but like, does it peek out more, you know? Or is that him moving the camera?
It's hard to say. Like I said, it's really hard to tell with like video files unless you're able to look at it yourself frame by frame.
Well, one thing's for sure. He definitely didn't see it when he came back in until he watched it later.
So that's pretty crazy. Wow. There is a, speaking of, so the bathroom you mentioned doing weird stuff and like things like that.
What's that in the background in there? Is that like a stuffed animal or?
Looks like a stuffed dog or something. It says
Yeah.
it's his daughter's room or something like that.
Somebody's saying it does in the chat. It does what? It does move?
No, yeah, that's what I say. Viv Games' bathroom door will just open occasionally. I've been in the room and I just like see it open. I was like, what the hell?
Point in time, the amount of stuff that happens at Viv Games is insane.
I will say that I'm fairly certain that the house is haunted, but what are you gonna do?
This is terrifying, Luke. Like, oh my God.
So I've long since decided that if a spirit or a ghost could physically touch or harm me, that means I can physically touch or harm it. That's my belief. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. So if I see something like this, I'm actually probably going to attack. That's just been my thought process on it for years now.
Yeah.
I just thought, you know what? I'm not going to be afraid in the sense of it controlling me. I'm going to fight back. So
You're going to fight that thing? So you're saying
Yeah.
you'd run over there and punch it in the face?
Oh, yeah. If I see something like that ever in my life, I'm going at it as hard and fast as I possibly can.
Some of the chat's saying, you know, somebody could fake this because they wanted attention. Yeah, I mean, they could.
Oh, wait, yeah, you could.
Yeah, you could tape something up there or shove something in the door frame up there,
Yeah.
I guess.
There are ways to do that.
Well, what is it?
Here's my thing about scary stories and things like that. Is it that every story you hear has to be true? Or does every story just have to have a subtle lesson that you should learn? Is this 100% right? Is this a spirit that he caught on camera? The stories we've told happen? Or is the underlying thing about us learning about being aware, taking care of ourselves, and being present and knowing that something could happen? So, like, every time someone says, oh, that's fake, it's like, is it fake or is it just a different way of telling people something that they need to know? I think you need to be open to the fact that things can happen. Things like this can exist because life in and of itself is a perplexing miracle that we can't even fathom. And that afterlife is very possible and very real. And something like this, some evil entity or evil magic that could have conjured some sort of creature at some point that could exist, or at the very least, you might save yourself from running into a serial killer or a yellow trench coat by being mindful of the evil that exists.
Preach it, brother.
Is it fake? Maybe. Is it real? Maybe. Either way, dangerous things exist. And you need to be aware of it.
It's terrifying, that's for sure.
Very terrifying.
I think it looks like an abnormally big head. Is that
It
hair
really-
on top of the head, you think?
It looks like hair. It definitely looks like...
I'm trying to think
It
if I put
doesn't
my head
look
in the
like...
corner of
Like,
the
my
board.
forehead isn't that much smaller than that forehead. That's a pretty normal-looking forehead to me.
Yeah, it's the eye part that gets me. It may
Yeah.
not even seem that big of a head. I do wonder, is the door frame at the bottom of him? Like, there's kind of, it branches out of the shadow of that eye.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that darkness is.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, it could be artifacting from the camera, at distance. They're not great at picking up subtle details, so they kind of blend together. The pixels do.
Look at that look at the eye area.
Yeah,
Gosh.
the darkness of the eyes. My eyes get kind of dark too. So like this feels like a real person's face, which makes it terrifying because it doesn't look like it's a fake face to me.
This video terrified me when I watched it. Turning my phone upside down makes it worse. Yeah, I wish I would have set it up to do that. I can't really.
I don't know. Like, I'm looking at it and I was like, it doesn't look like a fake monster face or something like that. Because like I said, my eyes could get dark around this area and kind of sunken looking. Normally my forehead's a little bit large. And so I'm looking at it. It looks like a normal person to me. And that makes it more terrifying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I can maybe see a little area with a nose. I can't really see a mouth.
Yeah, part of that, like I said, is kind of like artifacting with the camera at a distance. So to me, the fact that this looks real, like it looks like a real person, to me makes it look more terrifying.
Someone sent me a picture of a Michael Myers mask.
Yeah, it does kind of look a little bit like the Michael Myers mask, which is actually just the William Shatner mask. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Just nothing. So William Shatner looks like a monster in a mask form. So it's funny.
Gosh.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if I was to say that this was 100% fake, I would be lying that I believed it was 100% fake. Looking at it and like being as skeptical as I can be, looking at it, be like, I can't say for certain that this is 100% fake.
I don't see the nose really well though.
Yeah, that's shadowing though, and like I said, the camera's on a phone.
Yeah, it's clearly not a great phone.
I don't know what year this was.
I don't remember. It's said in the beginning probably, but
I don't know what year it was, and plus I don't know how much he spent on his phone. It didn't look like, even like when it's full lighting and close up, it didn't look like a high megapixel camera phone, right? So at a distance, the nose could get blurred out. This is scary, and it looks real, which makes it look scarier.
Yeah, this isn't the standalone activity either. The door and the water and the kitchen.
Yeah, and the
when we
flickering.
watched the door closed. Whether could you fake that? Yeah, I guess.
And also, he had the flickering light.
Yeah, I did see anything under the door though. So whatever it was not closed by standing in front of behind the door.
So like, a flickering light, you really can't fake that well. That's something that just happens.
I gotta quit looking at it. Sorry, I had to take it off the screen.
Yeah,
That is some creepy shit, dude.
it was.
I encourage everybody to watch that show. It's a damn good show.
I definitely need to check it out. I keep meaning to.
Got a lot of seasons. It's good stuff. That one caught me though, man. When I saw that, I immediately just got I could feel it.
That reminded me of the other one that you had shown where like the person kind of like peeks out at the end of that video.
Yeah.
That was scary. And also kind of reminds me of the statue video.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was something else.
Statue on was really creepy because there's definitely something sliding around out there.
Yeah.
To that area before it went to that area. It was moving somehow.
Yeah, I love the video segments.
I think that was a nice little break in the action of normal storytelling to shoot that video. So
I liked it.
You've got one more to finish us up tonight.
Yes, I do.
Just hit the music, see if we can get it working.
Oh, right. The name of this story is just Wendigo Encounter. I've been debating on sharing this story with anyone outside of my small circle of people that were there. But I want to share my experiences in hopes that it saves someone's life or to give understanding of what someone else has experienced. This was late fall 2010 in northern Canada. I went deep into the wilderness with my father and eldest brother to hunt for moose. We left early morning, just before sunrise, trying to cover as much distance as possible before nightfall. We traveled winding rivers and had to repeatedly portage over rapids all day. We decided to set up camp just over halfway to our destination. My father figured that we'd make the rest of the journey tomorrow. Well, when everyone bedded down for the night, I decided to go grab some firewood and relieve myself down by the bank of the river, just out of reach of the light. Out from the tree line about 15 yards away, I could hear rustling in the bushes. I watched the area where I heard the noise and focused on that spot. I felt kind of funny / lightheaded and dizzy, and I could smell this putrid stink, like old milk or rotten food. And I saw the tree start to move and morph out of the way ever so slightly, and they began to take the shape of a head and facial features. My eyes began to adjust to the darkness, and along the tree line, I could hear this voice coming from that area. I recognized it. The voice sounded like one of my relatives who had recently passed. The face took the shape of my relative. "Hello," they said. "I missed you. Come see me." I smiled and stepped forward, but stopped to analyze the situation. My relative's face stopped smiling and became emotionless. The skin began to turn pale and peel away. Chunks of flesh from their cheeks began to fall away, and I felt shock and fear overwhelm my body. Couldn't make sense of it at all, so I started to back away and move back towards camp. Didn't realize at the time that I had been walking towards the voice, and I was further away from the firelight than I intended. The voice became angry, began shouting at me, "Come here." So I started to run away, but as I looked back one more time, I saw the most disgusting thing I have ever seen. It was rotting flesh on gnawed bone, caved-in eyes, and a hollow chest cavity. This humanoid creature was tall and super thin. I ran as fast as I could, trying to yell for help, but the fear had made my voice quiet and raspy. I ran along the riverbank. I could hear the heavy breaths of the stomping feet from this thing right behind me. I made it on top of the riverbank, and I grabbed a hold of my leg as I jumped up. I gripped and tore the grass, trying to lift myself, and yelled as loud as I could. And finally, my voice came back, and I yelled. My brother woke up. He ran over to where I was and pulled me up and took me over to the fire. I was terrified, trying to explain what I saw, what looked like my relative, but not. I was trying to convince them that I wasn't seeing things. But my brother nodded his head and said, "I saw it too. I know." That solidified it. He acknowledged that it was real. We stayed up all night after that, rifles loaded, close by. We packed up when the sun was coming up and went back home. We hadn't shared the story with anyone out of fear of being labeled as crazy or liars. I've had nightmares and couldn't sleep for months afterwards. I could see things, dark figures looking into my window, or hear whispers while I was walking home at night. Eventually, I saw this dark figure daily. I went to a medicine man for help. I've learned that the ceremonies only relieves it temporarily. Friends have given me everything from protection pouches to certain crystals. I found out strong possibility that I encountered a Wendigo. I learned that you encounter one and survive, and it attaches itself to you like a parasite. He mentions in comments that he was a member of the First Nations of Canada, and that his father also said that he believed it was a Wendigo by the description. He didn't see it at the time. After telling him, he said that he believed that's what it was. And since then, he said that he continues to go to a shaman to try to relieve himself every so often of this burden.
A burden indeed it is.
I found that interesting because it goes back to the previous story I had spoken of, where they said they had those horrible things fall upon them after encountering the creature.
Tried to lure him in.
Yeah. Which is very much like what skinwalkers will do, too. They'll
exactly what I was thinking the whole time. Yeah. It was a relative, he said? The image was of a relative?
Yeah.
I think I would be a little concerned when my relative was out there.
I think it was more of like he was so overcome by the presence
Yeah.
that he couldn't process it. Like it was something that he just like couldn't understand. So he started taking steps towards it to try to get an understanding and realized too late that may have been a bad idea because it almost got him. But for the fact that his brother woke up and dragged him away, it could have gone seriously wrong for him.
Somebody said they'd probably fall for it. Yeah, I could see that. And you don't really know how much time lapsed when this was happening, either when they're talking about it.
Yeah.
It could have been like a 10-second thing. It could have been I don't know, but I always wonder like how close do you have to get to these things before this curse becomes upon you?
Someone says that you have to come in contact, and he mentioned that he was grabbed. Other people say you just need to be in presence of it, like they have to see you.
Oh, he was grabbed. It said he was grabbed.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. And the skin started falling. That was pretty creepy when the face
Sort of like,
because
fall.
like isn't that what they say about skinwalkers? Sometimes there's like a discrepancy in what it
yeah, it doesn't look right, and then like if it starts to change, it's like the skin falls off. The very similar thing with the Wendigo. Then he even mentioned that it was like a tall, skinny looking creature with like exposed ribs.
Yes.
Very similar to what we saw in that video, very similar we heard in other stories. So yeah, it's really interesting when all stories start to line up to be the same. And this guy was a member of Canadian First Nation natives, the Native Americans.
First Nation is in natives. Okay.
We call them Native Americans here. They're First Nations in Canada. So yeah, if you have a Native person who is encountering this thing, and like the shamans that he talks to, they all say the same thing.
How long do these sightings of these things go back in American history or history in general?
I've read some
Canadian. I apologize, but it's like even the skinwalker stuff in American history. Like, what's the furthest you've seen it go back?
It's funny because like talks about in the Appalachian Mountains in like Kentucky and Tennessee and stuff like that, or all that area also have Wendigo. It seems to be a North American continent wide curse, and it dates back at least, I've seen some mentioned in the 1700s, but possibly further. I haven't found any before that, but it could be even further back. It has something to do with anyone who results to cannibalism in North America, a spirit that inhabits them.
I need a 1700 story. Yeah, reminded me of America Stories covering some of that stuff. Makes you wonder if there's people if they come across something like that.
I definitely have in the past read some. I need to track some of them down and bring them up because any party that got separated in the winters, there was a lot of stories of Wendigo and stuff like that. Like
Wendigo, more like Wendigo. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't know what I would do.
It's definitely an ancient curse, though, something that was done to punish someone a long time ago, and it's spread throughout.
Maybe all the messed up stuff we did to them Indians,
I would like to find out how far it goes back, and I might end up doing some research on that and try to find some of those old stories.
Well, we're going to do this. They're asking for a personal story in the chat. Somebody did send us a story. Let's read that. I mean, it's not a super long one, but it'd be something we can cover real quick. Then we got to get the heck out of here. We're already pushing an hour and a half.
Sounds good to me.
This person said, when I was at my grandma's, I would sleep in her bedroom with her when I was a kid, and she would always go in the bathroom to get ready, and I would stay in the bedroom and wait on her. This night, she already had the lights turned out in the bedroom, and she had the workout machine in there, and I'm just laying there in bed, and I hear a huge crash, and the exercise machine and the arm things that you move on the exercise machine were swinging like someone had just used the machine. It scared the hell out of me.
That is terrifying. Because those things don't move without a significant amount of force.
Yeah, they're pretty damn big.
Like they won't, it's not a ton of force, but wind won't blow them. If if anyone has ever used one, you have to push and pull. That's not something that will happen with just a fan.
Yeah, Imagine being a kid and you hear this crash and you look and things are moving like it's been being used.
That's scary. Whether or not it was a ghost or someone was in there.
Yeah, I was about to say, it might be scarier if it wasn't a ghost.
No matter what, that's terrifying.
Yeah. You don't always know people that have these crazy things happen to them, but when you can hear a story from somebody that's just like reassuring that maybe I'm not crazy because the stuff I've had happen to me, you know?
Yeah. And
you think the person went back to sleep, Viv Games is asking?
sometimes
I could fall asleep pretty.
it depends on how tired I am. Like sometimes I might just stare and just like try to catch something. Yeah, you could feel it while reading these stories. Like your skin starts crawling, your blood starts pumping, fear is pumping your heart, and you're just like, you're ready to take on the world. That's kind of how I feel after all these stories. It makes me excited, and it makes me want to fight a ghost.
Fight a ghost. Well, let's do this. I don't have a new video for tonight, but let me find something real quick. Classic from the past, wind down a little bit. We'll come back and wrap the stories up tonight.
Sounds good.
You saw the dog, didn't you?
What dog?
The black dog.
You mean like the Led Zeppelin song?
No, Cruz knows what I'm talking about, don't you? I've heard truckers talk about it on the yard. They say it comes when you've been on the road too long and pushing too hard. When you get greedy, they say it comes to take everything away from you.
And it did. I was, hauling a load up from Atlanta on my 6th straight Georgia run. It was my daughter's birthday, and I thought I could make it home in time. I was on this long, dark stretch of I-75 with nothing to look at but the white line when I saw it. It was in the middle of the road, coming straight at me with his teeth bared, red eyes staring. So I swerved to miss him. I lost control.
Where do you come up with this shit?
It's for real, Wes.
Yeah? And I bet you've seen UFOs and aliens with big eyes.
No. Just a black dog.
Somebody said they're only 29. They don't understand. No one understands. This movie is not a well-known movie. This is a B-rated movie.
I love that scene because, I don't know, something about it.
I realized today how realistic the rain sounds.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about it is just like, every time I watch it, I appreciate something else about it, but I don't think it's any better than before. Like, it's still like, the whole movie is a goofball movie.
Yeah.
I appreciate something else about the movie every time I watch it. And then that scene in particular, too. Although, part of me, every time we watch it, I'm just like, I wish the scene just ends with him going, "You did it." I just like,
well, the short version we have does.
It's like, that just like, bam, that's all you need to know.
I like how it doesn't end with the story either. There's some conversing afterwards.
Yeah. And he's like, I think it's a little shit.
Yeah, shit. How do you come up with this shit? It's like such a drawn out the way he used the word too.
The guy is such a smarmy asshole in the back.
But it ends with the most epic line ever, though. He says, like, you know, you see aliens, and he's like, no, just the black dog.
Everybody, did I ever mention the fact that I saw the black dog while delivering newspapers one morning when I was a kid?
No.
Oh, yeah, I saw a mysterious animal, like, get up and run past while I was delivering newspapers when I was, like, I don't know, 12.
Were you sleep deprived?
No, yeah, I mean, you had to wake up at, like, 4 or 5 in the morning. And so, like, it just, the way it moved wasn't like a deer or a dog. It was something weird about it. And it was like an amorphous black shape that just ran past.
Wow.
It was strange. And there's this one house that was like in the back of like, not like a wooded area, but there was a couple of trees, extra trees, more trees than a normal house has. And that's where I saw. Anyway, I saw the black dog.
I was about to say, you need to get a T-shirt. I saw the black dog.
I do need
I think we could make that. You could get away with that copyright-wise.
Yeah, you can say so.
Trademark.
They wouldn't care.
That's a good T-shirt idea. Viv Games, you need to arrange that. You need to design that. Speaking of the past, the stories and the stories tonight, what was your favorite tonight?
The Yellow Raincoat. Man in the Yellow Raincoat. I don't know if you're hearing my dogs right now.
No.
They started barking for no reason. Anyway, yeah, the Man in the Yellow Raincoat, by far my favorite.
Terrifying story. It's real, right? So
yeah.
It's not like an apparition or anything. It's just a person. Yeah.
There's no debate there.
Like I said, the title is so grabs your attention of that one. It did for me, right? I'm like, Man in the Yellow Raincoat, like, what the heck? And I read it and I was like, there wasn't much to it, but yet there was a lot to the situation and bigger picture of the serial killer. But someone said that the Yellow Raincoat thumbnail is going to be fire.
The Man in the Yellow Raincoat, the title, to me, almost seems whimsical at first, right? It almost reminds you of like Curious George and the Man in the Big Yellow Hat.
Yeah.
For me, like going into it, I was put off by it. I was like, Man in the Yellow Raincoat, what could this possibly be? This could be like a goofy story.
Well, I thought of the cloak, right? This person's going to be doing some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But it turns out they're just trying to kill a person.
You go into it not exactly knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And then you end up with like the most monstrous human being you can imagine.
The most scary movie scene. Like you're trying to get into the house as quick as you can before the person gets there. And when they said they took off running towards them, I could just put myself in that position trying to enter that code as fast as I could.
Yeah, that's just one of those moments that, like, hearing that story, I could feel that fear in her, describing the events that happened to this lady. That was one of my favorite ones. And this definitely my favorite one of the night, by far. That was great.
I agree. The other ones are good, though. Of course, your stories were consistent, as always, normally. That was good. And then the video was a nice change of pace.
Yeah, the video is crazy.
I'm going to be thinking about that face in the video.
Oh, every time we do this, I like hearing the stories. I love it every time. These are all really good stories. It's all, like I said, it's always hard to pick one, but yeah, it was a good night.
I agree. I did get the stream schedule updated. I'll send it to you for the remainder of the year. Every 2 weeks, that's what we try. And crap happens, guys, and we're sorry about that. We really are. Again, we can hit some cool times of the year, some Thanksgiving stories, some Halloween stories, some Christmas stories, some New Year's stories. Those are all things coming up here in the next 4 months or so that I'm pretty excited about.
We need to do something special for Halloween. I don't know just yet, but we need to figure something out.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited. Make sure you go to yourscarystories.com. Check it out. The live stream schedule is there. The links to the audio and the video content are there as well. Or you go to jeffyoutube.com and all the stuff from Jeff Townsend Media is there. I think that's our plugs. The social media links and everything are on the website as well. Man, like you said, another great night, and I'm excited about digging into stuff for the next one.
Me too.
Any closing thoughts, Luke, before I hit this outro and get us out of here?
Watch out for guys in yellow raincoats.
In an elevator?
Definitely, especially if they haven't pushed any buttons.
It's creepy, isn't it? You get on the elevator, you're like, where's this? That's the first thing you do when you enter the elevator, right? You look, if the person's in there, you look to see like where they're going.
What button? Yeah, every time.
They're just sitting in the elevator. Gosh,
yeah.
That's creepy. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, folks. But what you can do is keep being you and keep being great.
Jeff Townsend Media. CG, good night.
And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?